Hello YouTube, this is Dave. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to look at exploring the Linux shell history and HISTCONTROL. So when I say Linux shell history, I'm not talking about the actual history as a story of the Linux shell. History is actually a Unix or Linux command that is very useful, and I use it all the time when I'm working on a Linux system. On Linux, the primary user interface is the shell. It's most commonly one called bash, which stands for Born Again Shell. That is spelled the Born like as in Jason Bourne, the movie character and book character. Via the shell, users can navigate the file system, manipulate files, and execute programs. History is an extremely useful feature of the shell. It retains a list of commands that the user ran, even between login sessions, and it also survives reboots. Understanding shell history is crucial for efficiently using the shell. It's valuable for troubleshooting and investigating security breaches. It can help you if you are trying to figure out what went wrong in a system, and it's also extremely helpful if you're trying to figure out what an interloper did to your machine. So let's give a little bit of a history of history. It dates back to the early days of Unix operating systems. Originally, it was found in a file in your home directory called .history. And just so that you know, this tilde and the /, that's Unix shorthand for your home directory. As bash and other more advanced shells became popular, that facilitated users being able to navigate through, search, and manipulate the history. Nowadays, it's most commonly found in a file called .bash_history found in your home directory. Documentation for the history command is part of the bash man page. Man pages are the manual pages or help files for commands and configuration files that you find on a Unix system. And that also includes Unix-like operating systems, which includes Linux. So let's hop on over to a terminal, and here we're logged into a Rocky 8 virtual machine, and we can pull up the manual page for bash. And to do that, you simply type in man bash. And bash is a shell, which is your user interface. You can do scripting, so in effect it's also a programming language. Other files or other shells are KSH and CSH, so you can have other kinds of shells on a Unix-like system. So to scroll with this, you can just simply use the down arrow key. You can hit the page, the space bar, and that'll bring you down like one page at a time. And then if you're done looking through it, you just hit quit, Q for quit, and that takes you out. So let's clear the screen, go back to our presentation. HISTCONTROL is a variable that, depending upon the variable or the value, will change how the history command works and behaves. So the first one that we're going to look at, and this one's important from a troubleshooting and cybersecurity perspective, is one called ignore space. What this does is it tells history to ignore any commands that start with a space. And this is not the default. So frequently if somebody gets into your system or does something wrong on your system, this won't be an issue. But if you do have somebody who gets into your system when they shouldn't be, and if they know what they're doing, they can set this variable and it'll help them cover their tracks. So it's something that you as a system administrator should be aware of. The next one is ignore dupes, and this essentially just prevents duplicate commands from being stored in the history, just keeps it a little bit cleaner. You can use ignore both, and what that does is it's a combination. It ignores space and ignores dupes. Erase dupes does just that. It erases duplicates if they're consecutive duplicate commands. Again, this is just a way to clean up the history file. And then the last one is basically ignore error, and you can see the spelling there. Any commands that fail, or in Unix speak, exit with a non-zero status, commands that exit with an error code, don't get saved. So let's hop on over to the terminal. After looking at this slide. So to set the HISTCONTROL variable, you use the export command. So what you could do is export HISTCONTROL equal ignore both. And something that you should always be aware of is that on Unix and Unix-like operating systems, they are case sensitive. So this, for example, right here needs to be all caps. This and this should be lowercase. So when you're following an example, pay attention to capitalization. So this command, as you saw, it just ran and didn't throw any errors, so we know that it went through. So what we can do is, let's take a look at the history file, and the easiest way to do that is you just type history. If we want to run a program again, the easiest way to do it is you hit bang or the exclamation point and the number of that command. So this will allow us to rerun the man bash command. Quit out of that. Now what if we do a leading space? So if we type top, this brings up some information about system load and processes. But now what happens if we type space top? We get the same results, but what happens, what do we see in the history file? You see that when I typed in space top, it wasn't included in the history. So this is a graphical example of why you should be aware of this. Now, by default, neither of those two values are set in the history control. And they also, unless you add them to your bash RC or bash profile, they don't survive logouts or reboots. If you need to persist across login sessions and reboots, you have to add this line, the export history control, export hist control, ignore both. You need to add that to either the bash RC or the bash profile using a text editor like Nano or Vim. So navigating history. As we showed you, you could just type in the word history. You can also do things like, right now, I'm going to hit the up arrow on my keyboard, and you can see that it scrolls through the history file. You can go back down it. Sometimes that's the easiest way to do it, especially if you just need to rerun a command that you ran previously, just within the last few commands. You can also type in 2 bangs, and that runs the last command. Now, say I knew that I had displayed the bash man page previously, and I wanted to run that again, but I didn't know the number. If I type in the bang key and I do man, what it did is it did some pattern matching there, and it reran the most recent command that had that leading string. That's what I did right here. And then Control R allows you to do a reverse search through the history. And it's, so for example, let's pull up history. Say I wanted to run a command that had Metasploitable in it. I could do Control R, type in the string, and you see that it immediately pulls up that text. So we'll do that. And it's now displaying the contents of a scan results file from an Nmap scan. And we're going to use this in another video. So if you combine these features or use individual ones as needed, you can really make your command line sessions a lot more productive and secure. And it's really important for efficiently using the command line. So in conclusion, understanding the history mechanism and utilizing features like HISTCONTROL in the Linux shell can significantly enhance productivity and streamline your command line workflows. Both experienced users and noobs, and we all started there, will find that if you master these tools, it's going to make your interactions with the command line a lot more efficient and a lot more enjoyable. And I would encourage you to experiment with different settings, explore history navigation techniques, and tailor your shell experience to suit your own preferences and requirements. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to click the notification button and share this with anybody who you think would find helpful. Additionally, I will post a link to the PDF of this slide presentation in the comments and also in the video description. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.